Forget critical race theory. We'd like to introduce you to critical whiteness studies, a new course being offered by hundreds of college campuses across this country.
Young scholars will have the opportunity to dive into the complex ways that white supremacy colludes with racism to create and maintain inequity.
Our next guest was appointed by Governor DeSantis to sit on the board of the new College of Florida to prevent courses like this from ever seeing the light of day. Manhattan Institute senior fellow and author of America's Cultural Revolution, How the Radical Left Conquered Everything, Chris Rufo. Chris, pleasure, always. These courses, the name is so kind of shocking, but it's I guess, an outgrowth of critical race theory. But if you read into what they're teaching, this is just, it's outrageous but not surprising at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. Critical whiteness studies is a subdiscipline of critical race theory. It maintains that white people are inherently racist and oppressive and seeks to explain structural inequities or tangible inequalities in terms of a reducible kind of white essence. And it's more akin to astrology or phrenology. It's a kind of pseudo-scientific discipline. And here's the thing.
Phrenology, the study of the knots on your head?
Exactly, right, yeah.
The bumps on your head?
Really good, I didn't know
that.
Yeah.
But the truth is this. Universities used to be a home to produce scholarship in pursuit of the true, the good, and the beautiful. Those greatest and highest things. And scholars were not supposed to pursue political and partisan activism. That was the deal that societies made with universities.
Yeah.
These universities have broken the deal. They've put political activism at the forefront of their method. And so governors like Governor DeSantis are rightfully saying, hey, wait a minute, if the taxpayers are going to pay for this, we don't want to have pseudoscientific disciplines. We don't want to have political and partisan activism under the guise of academic work.
Mm-hmm.
As you came in, I told you I was one of the many that put you over the top with the book, America's Cultural Revolution. I ordered it the day before it came out. Just started reading it. It's a great book. Love it. Love the work that you do. You also published an op-ed in the New York Times outlining the dangers that DEI poses to classic liberal education and tradition. What kind of response have you received from that op-ed?
Well, there's two responses.
Wide praise?
Well, I would say, there's been certainly some wide praise. People that have read it and grappled with the arguments, I think, are being slowly persuaded. But of course, the New York Times readers, and then certainly the far left lunatics on Twitter, have called for my imprisonment, have called for violence. And listen, they think that they own the New York Times, and what they've tried to do since 2020 is seal off their ideas from any debate. And so I think that the Times, to their immense credit, made a statement by publishing my op-ed to say, hey, wait a minute, we need to get back to having real debates. We need to get the smartest people from all different perspectives, put them on that op-ed page. Let's have a substantive debate. And here's the difference. And Tom Cotton tweeted this to me. He said, hey, this happened to me one time, and it didn't end quite well for the editors. But the Times now has the muscle and the confidence to publish something like that and not back down to the fringe mob that would like to silence a real debate.
Why do you think that is changing? And they have written a lot of articles about children and the transgender movement, and they've gotten a lot of outrage from even their own newsroom, but they still have pushed forward with that. But why do you think that's changing?
I think because the country in 2020, in the George Floyd season of riots, was gripped with a hysteria, and you couldn't say anything without being brutally and sometimes even physically suppressed. And so that hysteria yielded devastating consequences, which are plain to everyone to see. Defund the police turned out to be a terrible idea. Black Lives Matter turned out to be a scam. The leadership looted the organization and decamped to their mansions. And so I think those center-left liberals, with whom I disagree on most issues, are finally reasserting themselves and saying, hey, wait a minute, we don't have to always cave to the radicals. And my hope is that we can actually drive a knife and drive a wedge between the radical left and the mainstream left and get back to some sense of actually having a debate of ideas and policies that make sense. The left is not always wrong, and we're not always right, but we can certainly say conclusively now that the BLM extremists that hijacked the discourse for a couple years are now on the way out, even at the pages of the New York Times.
That's great. But by the way, the political left and the political right meet in the sense that we have a basic forum in which we can disagree, and that is free speech. And it's been heartening to know that others on the left have stood up and defended this debate that we should have in the country. Chris Rufo, great book. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you
I
so much,
appreciate it.
Chris.
Thank you.